Okay, so I've put together a list of the top 10 red flags not to say in the first interview. This isn't the telephone screening that you might probably get beforehand, where you'll just be asked some generic sort of questions to see that you fit the bill. That's not what this is. This is about the first face-to-face that you'll have with the line manager and maybe a few other team members or so forth. So, about me, I've spent over 20 years working with large corporates, medium-sized enterprises on all things people. So I have a vast amount of experience in understanding and evaluating interview processes and the whole recruitment process. The first thing before we get into the list is to understand the reason for the interview itself. So the interview itself is because they have a role, and the role isn't just, because they want something to do. It's because they have a problem. So if you understand what that problem is, and put yourself in the situation of being the solution to that problem, then it's a deal. And in a company, they'll look to have someone permanently because maybe they have constant problems, so you have constant work providing that solution. And if it wasn't a constant problem, they'd outsource it. So they'd go to another firm and they'd get someone in for a week or a month, or they might get a contractor. So it's exactly the same thing. Essentially, they have a problem and you have been identified as a potential solution. So everything you say needs to be a sale on providing them with that solution. That is exactly the same as if a company went along trying to sell their services to provide the solution. So with that in mind, every answer and every part of your discussion today in this interview needs to be focused on you providing the solution to their problem. And if you consider their problem as an outcome, then maybe you might be able to do that a little bit easier. So let's get into the list. These are the key, most important things to sort of consider before you open your mouth. Number one is don't overshare personal situations and details. If you're getting divorced or you have a relationship problems, and that could be with your children as well as your girlfriend, spouse, or whatever it might be that isn't relevant to that outcome and that problem solving situation, don't mention it. It's not relevant. If a supplier went along, they wouldn't be talking about that. They'd be just finding out what the outcome needs to be, and they'd be providing an answer for that. So no personal details. The second thing is, don't reveal. You don't have to lie, but you don't also need to sort of tell them anything about why you have left your last company, because none of the reasons why you've left your last company as an employee are going to be positive. Because if they were positive, you wouldn't be leaving. It's as simple as that. So unless you've moved house, unless your wife has said, let's move house somewhere, and you've had to give up your work, which is a fair enough thing, you could just say that. So you don't want to be telling them that you hate the boss. You don't want to be telling them you didn't get along with the team. You didn't want to be telling them the work was like dull and boring and anything like that, because they're just going to see you as bringing trouble to them. So avoid saying what that is. Equally, number three is don't mention personal plans that are not relevant to the outcome that they're looking for and the job you are there for. So starting a business on your own, retirement plans, traveling, whatever it might be, you don't want to be saying that, because that all they will hear is that you're not focused on what you're there for today, to get the job done and to provide them with their outcome. They're going to think you're there to get the paycheck so you can, hop off and go to the Bahamas. So that's a no-no. Number four is, if you're unlucky enough to be looking for a job when you have been made redundant or laid off, or you don't have a job, then there could be an air of desperation about your situation. This is something you also need to kind of train and mentor yourself out of. You might really be in hardship, you might really need the money, but you don't want them to know that, because if you look at the supplier side again, if it was a supplier, another company coming along saying they're going to provide them with a solution, but they say, "Oh, we really need this work because we haven't got anything and we haven't had any work for 6 months or something," you're going to think, "Oh, they just want the money," and you're going to think, "Oh, why are they in that desperate situation?" And you're going to hear it, from a long way away. Now, they will hear you, they will sense your desperation, and that's going to be doubt that you're creating in their mind. And doubt, most of the time, actually creates a different decision. We've all heard about, creating the element of doubt. If you create the element of doubt in their mind, they're just going to go, bit of a risk, not going to do it. Number 5 is, don't engage in political and religious opinions. This is your personal beliefs. These subjects are not relevant to business. And as much as we have current affairs and news articles and so forth, which, could, come up in conversation, the actual point on religion and politics, what your beliefs are, your personal beliefs are personal. You don't need to go there. And if they mention it and they have personal beliefs and opinions, then, and they're not yours, you need to be very careful about how you deal with that situation. So number 6 and number 7 are kind of related, and they're questions not to ask. So the first one is, in the interview process, this part of the interview process, asking about what you're going to get paid is not an indicator of you providing anything for them. It's about you wanting something back. So you're positioning yourself as a taker and not a giver. And what they're interested in with their problem and their outcome is someone that's going to give. So they don't want to hear at this stage, what's in it for you. Equally, they don't want to hear you say, how much holiday do I get? Because they're in a position of basically looking for their outcome and solution. They're going to give you something, and you're saying to them, actually, when can I not be here doing it? So these two things, you can really elaborate on them, but if you think about the basics of them, they're just not good things to be saying. You're not selling yourself at this point. You're basically saying, what's in it for me? Give, me. No. There's plenty of time. This is number 8. There's plenty of time for negotiation, and there's plenty of time to be talking about money. So it's a similar thing to the last two. If you've positioned yourself, bearing in mind that you know what the problem is and you know what their desired outcome is, if you've positioned yourself correctly, you'll be in a much better position for negotiating, because correctly and properly positioned people will be wanted and needed. You'll be above the rest. You'll have cut through the sorted the wheat from the chaff, and you'll be seen as, the one to have. Now, if you're the one to have, they're not going to be trying to sort of, push you on every dollar or penny. They're going to be thinking, actually, this one can provide this outcome and this solution, possibly quicker, better, and more efficiently. They're going to bring more value to the business. Therefore, they are worth more. So that's what you need to be looking at and thinking about from your first point, is how can I provide the biggest amount of value for their problem so they can get the outcome they have. So you shouldn't be revealing your present salary, because if you reveal your present salary, first of all, what it does is it shows you that you haven't really done your job properly, and you have and what the conversation is centered around is how much it's costing them. They shouldn't be thinking how much it's costing them. They should be thinking about how much value they're getting from you. So you need to avoid giving away that salary if you end up in that situation. And you need to be giving them an answer along the lines of, I have a figure that I'm aiming for. What I'm looking for is 825 or a number. Don't say something like I'm looking for something between 125 and 150, because all they hear is, well, that's 125, because actually he's given me two ranges and he's going to accept 125. So you just need to have one figure, not two, one figure. Number 9 is, regardless of who is in the room, what level they are, what seniority and what role they do, you have to treat everyone equally. So if they are, if you've got the CEO or the director or the line manager, or you have the line manager and you have an assistant and so forth, or other team members, you have to treat them exactly the same, because by not doing that, you're undermining the ones that you're not talking to. So it's a good idea to sort of spread yourself across. People like that. It shows team membership. It shows an awful lot of collaborative spirit, and it commands respect, because that is exactly what the CEO will do. He'll talk to everyone equally. So you need to be doing the same thing. And finally, when you're asked about situational experiences, and they'll probably ask you about similar things. So their objective is, as I keep saying, about their problem and the outcome they're looking to achieve. So it's more than likely, it's virtually definite that they're going to ask you about similar experiences that you've encountered that are similar to theirs. Because that's really all they're interested in, is they've got this problem. Can you do it? And how well can you do it? How fast can you do it? How cheaply can you do it? All these things. So when you're giving them the evidence to what they've asked for, the evidence, the answer to the question, you need to be using I and not we. And it's very easy to say, we did this, we did that, and maybe you're meaning the whole company, or maybe you're meaning the whole team. What they hear is that it wasn't you personally. So I did this means you personally did that. We did it. Who knows who we is? Maybe you were just not there. You might have been on holiday, and we as the team did it. So don't give them any sort of grey areas where they can go, I'm not sure if he did do it or whether that was the team that did it. And he used we an awful lot. It's very important, that. So there we are. Those are the 10 things to start with, not to say. If you work on that list, practice. So the key takeaways here are practicing positivity, practicing reframing everything that's potentially negative into a positive, and always keep their outcome and their problem as the main point that you are there to provide a solution for. A lot of the questions you get asked in an interview are effectively, they're a bit trick questions. They're not really, they're just there to see if you can think on your feet and can come up with, good reasons why not. And for the most part, most interviewers know that you'll have rehearsed and you'll have done all these sort of things, and hopefully, that they will understand that. What they will like, what they won't want is for you to be completely unprepared, for you to come across those questions. It's worse than rehearsing the answers, to have come across those questions and to go, oh, I don't know, So you're better off rehearsing them, because they will know you've done that. So if this was useful, and you want to catch up with other tips and tricks, you want to understand how to progress into the next stages, negotiations, and day one onboarding, all of those sort of people aspects, then like and subscribe. I'll be posting new videos every week or more often, and I look forward to helping you in the future. Thank you.